Hello.
Andy, will Anna be joining us?
No, she won't.
What about Terry?
I believe so. I'm not sure on that. Ron had the most recent conversation with Terry.
How's he doing?
Yeah, I'm not real sure.
He was at
We
planning
were,
last week, and he looked a little rough, but said he was feeling okay.
Okay, we are live.
Mr. Hirth, is Mr. Donnellan going to be joining us?
Okay, we are live.
Is Mr. Donnellan going to be joining us?
Not for this meeting.
Okay. All right, then we will call to order the Finance Committee for Monday, September 14th, 6 p.m. All members are present and accounted for. If we have an opportunity to adopt and set the agenda, I need a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Any discussion, additions, subtractions? All right, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, nobody's registered to address the committee, so we will jump into approving the minutes from February. Did you guys have a chance to look at those? Any comments or additions?
No comment.
All right, do I have a motion to approve the Finance Committee minutes?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we'll jump into new business with the August financial packets for August 2020.
all right. For the month of August, fiscal year 2020, the village had an adjusted bank balance of $2.3 million. Of this amount, $2.1 million can be found in the village's primary banking account. This includes the balance of the village's primary spending account, the general fund, as well as the balances from the village's several road and street funds. In August, the village had 84 payments clear in the amount of $189,000. The top 5 payment payees for August were payroll in the amount of $71,000, Rumpke in the amount of $18,000, Cozy, which is the employee health insurance company, in the amount of $16,000, the Ohio Police and Fire Pension in the amount of $15,000, and there were several payments to U.S. Bank in the amount of $7,700 for the month of August. As for village receipts, the village received 28 payments totaling $221,000. The largest sources of revenue over this period were from RETA in the amount of $75,579 and the city of Cincinnati in the amount of $57,000. So a little bit of background on why we received $57,000 from the city of Cincinnati. They paid us to cover infrastructure improvements through waterworks as part of the Stover Road project. That was the last disbursement of that amount that we were entitled to. So as for the general fund, Revenue for the month was $136,000. This figure is a significant decrease from the August 2019 figure in the amount of nearly $260,000. Now, before someone gets alarmed by this, the reason for that is, excuse me, by August 2019, we had already received the second half property taxes. We have not received those yet this year. The reason being is the auditor extended the deadline for payment of property taxes for this year as a response to some of the COVID restrictions. I have spoken with the auditor and we should receive second half property taxes this week. So once those get in there, that gap will be gone. Moving along is the topic that everyone I'm sure is interested in is income tax receipts. For the month, the village generated nearly $79,000 in income tax receipts for the month of August. And this represents an increase of nearly 60% from last year's monthly total. So the 60% increase in income tax this month also represents a significant increase in projected receipts for the month of August. As I've said repeatedly, since we had to adjust some of our revenue forecasts because of COVID, the village expected only a 10% decrease in income tax receipts for the month, and instead we have a 60% increase. So village administration will continue to monitor this revenue source closely and make sure all necessary adjustments are made. As for appropriations, the village has currently expended 60% of appropriations, or $1.1 million through August fiscal year 20. This marks a 4% decrease in total expended appropriations over the same period last fiscal year. So for the month of August, the village spent $134,000, or $700 more than what the village spent in August fiscal year 19. So we have a 4% decrease through the year in terms of what we've spent compared to last year, but for the month of August, we are pretty much identical with spend August 2020 compared to August 2019. So the decline in village spend continues the trend started last fiscal year, stemming from a strategic reorganization of village personnel and the implementation of strict purchasing and spending controls among village departments. In addition, the village has implemented a spending freeze on all non-essential purchases this year to further protect village resources in response to the impact of COVID-19 on the local economy. I'm happy to answer any questions about the monthly financial report that any of you may have.
Do we know what that second half property tax payment will be?
It will be approximately the balance of what's outstanding. I think I have it here in the financial packet. I think it's approximately $250,000. We've received no indication from the county to expect second half property taxes to be reduced based on what they've said last year as part of our budgeting purposes. So all in all, it appears that we are, in terms of income tax, which we believe is the most sensitive to economic disruption or the quickest to reflect economic disruption, we are approximately $13,000 below where we were at this point last year, which, given everything that's gone on, is something I think to be optimistic about.
Great. Are there any questions about what Mr. Lanzer covered?
Nope, all good.
I'm also going to request let me see here. I won't get too far ahead of me. The amended appropriations, I can jump into that if you're happy, if that's okay.
Sure, go for it.
We're requesting a supplemental appropriation to the village's operating budget. Specifically,
Andy,
we are. Yes.
Mr. Kirk was saying something.
Sorry,
Okay.
before we get past the financial packet, did you want to review those graphs? I have those up if you want to take a look at them.
Sure. Yeah, so for the financial packet, this is the first month where some of the adjustments I've made to the financial packet have been included in the financial packet. So this includes the graphs and charts that were requested, and some of the changes that were requested to be made to them, as well as a list of definitions that I believe would be helpful in helping council as well as the general public kind of digest some of the information that's in these, that's found in the packet. And in terms of location in the packet, if you get to the packet, the charts and the definitions are on the last few pages of the packet. So the first 3/4 of the packet looks identical to what we've been producing previously. The last quarter of the packet is those graphs and charts, as well as the definitions that were requested to be added. So again, it's divided into several different categories. The first category is income tax revenue, and it kind of follows what I try to explain each month doing the review of the monthly financial packet. So the first chart is a monthly income tax comparison that compares income tax from the month from fiscal year 19 to the month of fiscal year 20. The next chart is an income tax receipt total year to year. So it gives a snapshot of where we are compared to where we were last year. The third chart is an income tax receipt actual versus forecast. So what this shows is how much we've received to this point compared to what was forecasted and what created the budget. The second section is property tax. Again, a total year to year. Now, property tax is a little bit different to compare monthly because we only get them dispersed twice a year. So the first chart is where we stand today compared to last year. As you'll notice, it appears that we've received exponentially more property taxes last year than we have to this point this year. And again, that's because of the frequency of the disbursements from the county auditor to us. We are still on track to meet forecast. And speaking of forecast, the second chart is actual versus forecast. So to date, I believe we received close to 60% of property taxes. The final 40% of that will be received this week. The third section is general fund. So again, it's a month-to-month comparison. The second chart is a comparison year to year. And the third chart, again, is where we stand today versus what was forecasted, what was budgeted for. So we've received 70% of income tax that was budgeted through August of this year. That pie chart is a general fund revenue by source. So what that chart attempts to illustrate is, in terms of all of the general fund revenue, where does it come from? So the largest percentage is income tax. I believe it's 38%, followed by real estate property taxes. We are now at the Village of Gulf Manor for the first time last year, and some time has become a majority income tax revenue community. And then the fourth section there is appropriations. So again, we have a month-to-month comparison. The second chart is a annual to annual comparison. And then the third chart is within a month, who are our top 5 consumers of appropriations? What vendors, payees? And again, it's payroll, Rumpke, health insurance, Ohio Police and Fire pension, and for this month, it's US Bank. I suspect at least 4 of those 5 will be the same each month.
Say that last part again. The 4 of the 5 will be what?
I suspect when we look at this from month to month, the top 4 payees are probably going to be the same. It's going to be payroll, Rumpke, health insurance, and Ohio Police and Fire. That's what I suspect. It's the only difference this month to last month was US Bank. And the reason being is we made a Hylant we paid Hylant. We make semi-annual payments to Hylant. What Hylant is an insurance company that the village uses to insure all sorts of wonderful things.
Or
And those are-
liability insurance,
Was that wrong?
liability and property.
Right, the building and vehicles and whatnot. And we make those payments twice a year. So I suspect at least, again, 4 of those 5, if not all 5, will probably be fairly consistent from month to month. And then the last chart is are the appropriations. What departments consume what percentage of general fund appropriations? As you can see, the police department consumes the majority of appropriations. Sometimes when I talk about it, I say the village is in the business of policing. That's what our residents expect: a good, sound community, neighborhood-friendly police department. And the rest of that balance is appropriated to all the other departments and services that the village provides. So it's administration, followed closely by solid waste. And solid waste is kind of misleading because Rumpke generates revenue for us, and then we turn around and pay it back to them. And then the last page or few pages is a list of definitions that I thought would be helpful to understand and know when trying to consume this financial packet that's just full numbers. So appropriations, what's an appropriation? When we talk about the bank reconciliation, what is that? I listed several different funds that I thought were appropriate that we talk about more consistently than others. When we say what's a cleared payment and a cleared receipt, that is there. Fund balance, what's a fund balance, as well as some definitions of income tax and property tax and millage, especially millage. I think millage gets confusing for a lot of residents. What is a mill? How is it calculated? So those are the updates to the financial packet. Again, I'm happy to hear any suggestions or improvements you may have. If there's something that's not included in that you would like to see, again, I'm happy to listen to your suggestions on that. But for the first month, that's kind of the trial run. Let's hopefully that answers some of the questions and brings some clarity to village operations and the budget that will help everyone kind of understand it and digest it more easily.
Thank you, Mr. Lanzer. I know the mayor will be very, very excited about this. All right. Continuing on, you had jumped into reappropriations a little bit, I believe.
Yeah, hold on one second. Let me pull up my document here.
I'm sorry for that interruption.
Yeah, so tonight, village administration is going to request that council approve a supplemental appropriation to the village's operating budget. Specifically, we are requesting that council approve a supplemental appropriation in the amount of $23,443 for the Village Fund 2051. So as you recall, earlier this year, the village received an initial disbursement of resources from the state of Ohio. These resources that we received from the state are replacement funds that are supposed to be used to offset revenues lost by the municipality as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. So by receiving these resources, the village has agreed to spend them only to offset expenses caused by responding to COVID-19. And to ensure that that is done properly, we created Fund 2051 to, again, ensure the proper accounting and appropriation of these revenues. Most recently, the village has received $23,443 from the state, and it's our intention to account for these revenues and to appropriate them in the village's operating budget to cover several COVID-19 related projects and expenses we have. And again, I'm happy to answer any question anyone may have about that.
Do you need a recommendation from this committee to council to approve those, is what I'm?
I believe so.
Can I just ask, can you give is there an easy, quick rundown of any of those projects?
Actually, there are, and I'm going to cover that in the main council meeting. Hang on, let me get to my notes here. Let's find them.
I only ask because if I'm going to make a recommendation that it be, brought to council, I would want to know,
Sure.
some of those projects.
Hopefully this is the right list here.
Yeah, so I don't have the list in front of me real quick right now.
I've got it here, Andy.
What I can say off the top of my head is Ron may have. It's typically used for like cleaning supplies. I know that we're interested in possibly purchasing additional traffic signs. Those are COVID related expenses. We are looking to possibly replace the playground equipment in the park using COVID expenses.
So Andy,
Furniture.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can do
Yes.
Okay.
It's
I've got
difficult.
the actual list here if you want me to go through it.
Sure.
We are using it for reimbursement for COVID-related police department overtime, purchase of PPE and cleaning supplies for the police department, maintenance and administration departments. We are replacing the concrete at the back door of the hall, which actually was finished today, to facilitate creating mobility access for meetings, election day and so forth. Where that will be helpful to us is we're going to restrict all activity for election day to the hall, so people won't be walking through the police department or the administration area. That we did not have a wheelchair accessible entrance, and we now have. We are actually going to replace the building security system. The current system that we have is starting to fail. We want to retain and create additional doorways with touchless key fobs, so we aren't having people touch their hands on the doors and so forth. We have purchased technology to facilitate online meetings, including everything that we had to buy to be able to do meetings like this, software, hardware, cameras, etc. The last thing that we're looking into is the furniture in the hall and in chambers is not antimicrobial in properties that are easily cleaned and sanitized. So we're looking at making a purchase to replace the tables and chairs in the halls, as well as the chairs in chambers. Those are the major projects that we're looking at right now.
Okay, I had asked Mr. Lanza this at a different time, but if there was ever a time that people need space for social distancing outside, it seemed to me, I understand that there was originally a plan to surround the volunteer park with a concrete walkway. If that was something that we could also use COVID funding for, I think that there would be a lot of support from that, from village residents. I don't know if that's a thing that could be done, just something I was thinking about.
So when the COVID funds became available to us, we started looking at, first of all, protection of the residents and the employees. Then we started looking at infrastructure things. The greatest need that we have right now is to replace the wall in the park, which was not
Absolutely
a project we can do with COVID funding, and creating infrastructure such as a walking trail or something like that, that also would not be allowed.
got it.
We can have stuff, but not that kind of stuff.
And I also want to reiterate that when we're talking about the COVID funding from the state, so they've given it to us. They require any unappropriated balance at the end of the year to be transferred back to them. And the way I look at this is this is the tax dollars of the residents of Gulf Manor, in which we were given an opportunity to get some of that back. And I think it would be extremely responsible of us to use it in a way that ensures that their tax dollars stay in Gulf Manor.
100%.
All right. Do I have a motion to recommend council to approve the reappropriation for the COVID grant or for the COVID funding?
Yeah, so motion.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Anything else we need to discuss on that, on the COVID funding for reappropriations?
I don't think so.
All right. Moving right along into the police department vehicle loan.
So last time we talked to council, the police department had sourced the Ram 1500 truck that they're going to use as a police vehicle. It's a 4-person cab, so it'll function just like a police car, but it has the bed in it. We were looking at financing from a company that was recommended by the dealer. And at the time, we were looking at 5% plus in terms of annual percentage rate on that loan. Several things happened after that council meeting. We ended up in a position where the lender was being difficult in terms of giving us the information that we needed to be able to use the vendors that we needed. Therefore, we reached out to a couple of different lending sources, and US Bank, who we have 2 other loans with for vehicles, was able to provide the same type of financing program that Chief Campbell was looking for, in addition to coming in at an interest rate of just less than 2.5%. So it was a much cheaper loan. It will be 2 payments per year starting in 2021 over the course of 3 years. And then I believe the chief has a plan that if he has additional funds available over the next 3 years through various sources available to him, he may pay that off early. That being the case, we have taken possession of the vehicle. It's sitting in the parking lot waiting for approval from council this evening. So we can go ahead and let US Bank fund the escrow loan. It will be a $63,000 loan, which will include the cost of the vehicle at around $30,000 and then $33,000 in materials to equip and set up the vehicle to be a police car. Chris, did you have any details that you wanted to share about the vehicle?
Not really. It's our first time using a truck. A lot of agencies are starting to add those to their fleet just because of the utility involved with the vehicle. I know in past meetings we've discussed where there's times where officers had to use their personal vehicles to return property to residents here in the village. It's able to hold a lot more equipment we could need on the street, such as road barricades and things like that. The price of the truck was actually less expensive than if we were to purchase a Ford Explorer. So I think we're getting a lot more for the money with this vehicle. Sergeant Reed has done a great job in getting this together, sourcing the equipment, because we're not really using a cookie cutter here. And he's done a great job in finding everything we need to get this up and running.
Are there any questions about this for anybody? So what we would appreciate this evening, if this committee could make a recommendation to council to pass the legislation. The amounts and everything are in the legislation that Mr. Donilon sent you in the council packet.
And I, as an employee and shareholder in US Bank, need to recuse myself from all recommendations regarding the loan. So just to put that into the record, I am recusing myself from the decision to recommend to council.
So would you like to elect a chair pro tem?
I would like to elect Arya Prinoff as the chair pro tem in my place for this decision.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, you're up.
Okay, so I definitely would like to recommend to council that we go ahead with the purchase of the Dodge Ram pickup for the use of the police department and all necessary work done to it in order that it should function correctly as a police vehicle.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great, motion passes. Mr. Pro Tem, you may step down.
I do so gratefully.
Thank you, Arya.
Graciously.
All right. Moving into the speed hump expense approval.
So last time council met, we talked about the engineering having been completed to add 14 additional speed humps to the village. That project went out for bid after being advertised the appropriate amount of time by our road engineer, JMA. Mr. Lanzer sat with Mr. Lyerly, our road engineer. When was that? That was like August 27th, I believe.
Yeah.
When the bids were submitted, we received 3 bids. The lowest bid was accepted by the village. And this evening in your council packet, in your legislative briefing, are the details of the funding for the speed hump project. Essentially, it's about $60,000, actually 50, I believe 58. And I'm sorry, I don't have that here in front of me. In actual monies that'll be expended by the village. So there are no grants or loans or any other types of funding associated with those. This is an important project. If you've been following news in the city of Cincinnati, there's a huge outcry in the neighborhoods there to add speed humps. And for whatever reason, city council is not being responsive or there are no funds. I'm not sure what the issue is, but speeding is becoming a huge issue in communities across the country. This is not going to stop speeding, but we're providing this as a tool for our police officers to, one, be able to limit their contact, hopefully by encouraging residents and other visitors to the village not to speed. Secondly, this hopefully will allow us to be able to allow our police officers to concentrate on other types of activity that are more crucial to the village. So for that reason, we would like to have council's or have this committee's recommendation to approve council's approval of the funding for this project. And if that indeed happens, the actual installation of the speed humps will probably start somewhere between mid-October and the end of October. I would note that this project does not include Vera Avenue or Short Elbrook. Speed humps will be installed on those 2 roads when we do the road project on Vera next year. So when those speed humps that are there come out this fall, they will not be, hopefully there will be a new surface in process of being there, being put in, and we can deploy those other speed humps somewhere else.
Lovely. So we need a recommendation to council to approve the expense.
I'll make a recommendation to council to approve that expense.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion
Thank you.
passes.
We appreciate that. COVID grant funding was actually the list of stuff that I just spoke about. And I'll talk about that again in full council. Finally, under minimum wage, so the administration had been working with Mayor Densmore to try and determine whether or not Gulf Manor could become an employer where the minimum wage that we offer to employees is $15 an hour. At the time that discussion was taking place back end of December to mid-February, we were not, the administration was not in favor of doing that for a couple of different reasons. The beginnings of rumblings about COVID were starting. We also had just last fall approved a new pay range system that council approved that we were just starting to implement and roll out. The two workers in our village who are under minimum wage would be the part-time people, or under the $15 minimum, were the part-time people in the maintenance department. That being the case, things have changed in maintenance. We actually have had one of the part-time workers resign. We need to replace that individual. And looking at the funding that we have, the appropriation set aside for funding salaries for those part-time positions, we are actually under budget because one of those positions had not been filled for most of the year. The person who was in that position was not working regularly. It also makes sense looking to bring on a new employee. Both of our part-time maintenance workers are highly skilled. They are individuals who bring capability of doing other things with them. And in addition to that, the person that we're bringing on also may be somebody that we look to do part-time property maintenance stuff for us. So I believe it's a win-win for the village. We're getting another highly trained employee, in addition to being able to allow us to offer a sustainable wage to people who come here to the village. I do not advocate changing the pay rates. I think we need to stick with those rates for at least another year, if not two, which gives us the flexibility that if we do have someone that we wish to look at a different wage, we have the flexibility to do that. And I believe I've talked to everybody individually about those.
So at this point from us, do you need a recommendation to council to increase or to approve the hiring of a part-time service employee at $15 an hour or above? Or?
Actually, what you're doing is we need a recommendation to, it's not to hire an employee, it is to allow Gulf Manor to observe a minimum $15 per hour minimum wage for part-time associates.
I'll make that recommendation.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved.
And then for year-end close, in your mailboxes, there are forms that we need you to complete to update your contact information in case there's an emergency, so we can get that information in the Paycor. It's not as vital for council members as it is for the employees, but we would like to just have that information on file. So if you get a chance, actually what I'll do is have Anna fax those forms to you so you can send those fax, did I say fax? PDF those forms to you so you can get those back to us. Other things that she's starting to do is to take a look at purchase orders and requisitions, closing out things that we haven't used to make sure that everything's updated as we prepare to close the books at the end of 2020. I would also remind this committee, actually the audit committee, I believe we have an audit meeting coming up next month, which would be at 5:45 p.m. virtually on Monday, October 27th.
26th?
I'm sorry, Monday, October 26th. Yeah, I was thinking about the council meeting for the 28th is actually moved to the 29th because of Yom Kippur, I believe. So I had like months mixed there. Sorry about that.
When you get a second, could you update the calendar invites
Sure.
for that for October with all that?
It's on the list.
Thank you. All
That's
right,
all I have.
perfect. Any other items or topics, old business announcements?
So the only thing we just talked about this finance will next be Monday, October 26th at 6 p.m. Hopefully we will be back to our normal cadence of council meetings and committee meetings then starting in October.
Lovely. Looking forward to it.
So when we're done with this meeting, I'm going to end the meeting so we can restart it at 7 o'clock so we have a separate recording.
Perfect. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So motion.
Thanks, everybody.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. See you guys soon.
Okay. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Ron.